হ্যালো এভরিওয়ান অ্যান্ড ওয়েলকাম টু আইভিমস লাভ ভেঞ্চার। সো আমাদের আজকের ভ্লগটা আমাদের জন্য অনেক এক্সাইটিং আর একটু ডিফারেন্ট। সেটা হচ্ছে নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটি কালচারালি বলি বা আর্কিটেকচারালি বলি অনেক বেশি সমৃদ্ধ। তো নিউ ইয়র্ক সম্পর্কে খুবই ভালো মতো জানতে হলে বেস্ট ওয়ে হচ্ছে কোনো একটা ট্যুর গ্রুপের সাথে ইনভলভ হওয়া, কারণ তারা তখন সব কিছু অনেক ডিটেইলে খুলে বলে। আর আমার অনেক দিন ধরে ইচ্ছে ছিল যে এইভাবে নিউ ইয়র্ক সম্পর্কে কিছুটা জানার, আর নিউ ইয়র্কের ফুড সম্পর্কে মানে সব কিছু নিয়ে একটু ডিটেল জানার। সো রিসেন্টলি আমরা এই সুযোগটা পেয়ে গিয়েছি। নিউ ইয়র্কের একটা লোকাল ট্যুর গ্রুপ যেটার নাম হচ্ছে লাইক লোকাল ট্যুর। সো ওরা আমাদেরকে একটা ইনভিটেশন দিয়েছে যে ওদের সাথে আজকে ব্রুকলিন এরিয়াটা আমাদেরকে ঘুরে দেখতে। সো আমরা সেই সুযোগটা লুফে নিয়েছি। সো আমরা আজকে সারাদিন কি করব, কোথায় কোথায় যাব, কি ফুড টেস্টিং করব, সব কিছুই আমরা এই ব্লগে দেখাবো।
Island Historical Society. And the reason for that is, as much as New Yorkers do not like to admit it, Brooklyn and Queens are geographically on Long Island, or Long Island as we would say. Yes, geographically. Politically, no. So we have to name to the Center for Brooklyn History. Inside these walls are 400 years of Brooklyn history. But the history of Brooklyn goes back even further than that, to the time when the Lenape Native American tribe was here. Now they were here for millennia, and they lived in villages throughout this area. This was a dense forest at one time with Brooklyn at some point, because New York City was the first capital of the U.S. And even though Brooklyn wasn't part of wasn't part of New York City at that time, he may have ventured over into Brooklyn. So that's a possibility. And then around the corner we've got Shakespeare and a few others. Now Shakespeare never even heard of Brooklyn because it didn't exist when Shakespeare was alive. And so people will say, well, how come these folks are on the facade of this building? 45. We become a city 1835. It takes a full decade to get a city hall, but nonetheless, two families who just on Pierpont Street, they were one of the founders. Talk about the building that was here prior. It was a 10-story building here up until 1960. That was the headquarters for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Now the Brooklyn Dodgers were our team here from the 18th Haagen-Dazs shop. And I want you guys coming here on the tour. They're not just talking about, and they tout themselves as having the best croissant in New York City.
Oh.
I cannot speak on it.
Because you refuse to.
This is nice. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So this here is the Brooklyn Cat Cafe. And so you can pay
Cat Cafe?
$12 for 30 minutes of cat petting.
Oh,
really?
I love those.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
What considering?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. He wanted to just, go on a tour, get so familiar with this neighborhood because he just moved here. And he said, oh yeah, I adopted my cat Edgar from here.
Edgar.
Yeah. Which is adorable. Oh, that's a tuxedo cat with a bow tie. Look, the tuxedo cat has a bow tie.
Yes.
That's hilarious. Okay, so these three are said to be perfect examples of growth. Very, kind of like a good social standing if you can afford this room stone. Yes. And so, why was one torn down? Because before 1976, now the American Revolution started up in Lexington and Concord in April of 1770, in the summer of 1776. William Howe was a general waiting for his brother Richard Howe to make it across the Atlantic Ocean. And his brother was also a general. George Washington, of course, is aware of this. He has the Continental Army spread out all. Mother Nature, Providence, God, whatever you want to believe, is on his side because there is a huge storm here that night. There's fog, wind, rain. The British are hiding out in their tents, and the Americans take this opportunity to ferry across Brooklyn, of course, right here. That's the Verrazano Bridge that connects the two. So when Giovanni the Verrazano came in, he came right underneath where that bridge is now.
So is that Staten Island?
All the way out there. This one is Governor's Island now. There, like nobody can live on Governor's Island today. But previously it during the American Civil War, it was a POW camp, and then it was a Coast Guard training station as well. So like we have Manhattan on Wall Street. Not St. Patrick's.
Yeah, because it goes like this.
Are you familiar with the Underground Railroad? Okay. So,
Sorry.
welcome to do that. This is a totally different kind of situation here. Now we talked about Arthur Miller earlier. Now Arthur Miller, and all of these here were built. Houses were built. They were like garages for you, I believe. On the brick buildings, you have like stars, or some kind of maybe X's or T's. Any of those things. Some from the 1940s, maybe 1960s. Use that to mean the steps going up into a house. And so this is our stoop. Very common thing to find here in the stoop. The first reason was when these houses were originally built, these streets were unpaved. So if you were a wealthy person, you could find this would have been the kitchen in those days, would lead to the garden where they might be gardening or laundry. And today, these have been converted into apartments. So this is now your garden entrance and all of the outlets basically in the middle. And of course, you can see this neighborhood is still very social.
I love like that.
Voracious reader of, especially of newspapers. He used to get over 50 daily newspapers sent to his apartment here. And he was made of literature. I live in Brooklyn, by choice. The owner of the house was a Broadway set designer, whose name is lost in history now, or at least in my history. But when Jackie Kennedy moved to New York City in 1960, the 1910s to 1920s, it's a coming of age story about a young girl named Fran. Before World War II onward, this becomes a very desirable neighborhood for writers. A lot of writers live here. Norman Mailer lived here as well, and countless others that the names escape me right. And then City Aldermen were here for the Brooklyn Bridge connecting. We're going to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
Many nights studying mathematics and engineering. And she later on takes over the project on her. And then she goes on and gets a law degree because if you got one, you might as well get two. This girl loved homework. Yeah, she was very impressive. And the bridge is open. In 1890, there was a man by the name of Raphael Esposito. He gets word that the Queen Margherita of Savoy is going to be making a tour of Italy. So they take this opportunity to move into this neighborhood that was originally called. This is St. Anne's Warehouse Garden. This was originally a tobacco warehouse. Believe it or not, tobacco was a very viable commodity here in New York City up until the 1800s. In the middle of that's a theater company that's been around now for decades and been in this building since 2015. So what we're going to do now, we're going to be bought it in 1984 at auction for $380.
We were wild. Dude, I would go my knees.
Empire Store, Time Out Market. জাপানিজ আচ্ছা টাকা দি মেইজ প্রজেক্ট আমরা এখানে যাব মেবি এটা ভেগান Feliz Navidad happy. It might be Mexican. Oh,
mozzarella sticks, but they are breaded, and I'm not sure breaded. They're made of dough, and there's cheese inside, and then there's a nice dipping sauce. So we shall all find out together. Oh, thank you so much.
Brooklyn Bridge. Wait, have you? Oh, yes.
So this is a very popular two options. Basically, just to let you know what it is. It's basically a
Finally, you can see it.
And then they would
You're funny. সেই বিখ্যাত ফ্লি মার্কেট